Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Taeguk Explorer, watching the stars drift past the viewing screen. His crew had been traveling for 3 months, searching for signs of intelligent life beyond Earth. Today, their scanners had finally found something. A massive ship, unlike anything humans had ever built, was approaching them from the dark space ahead. Lieutenant Yuna checked her console and looked up with wide eyes. "Captain, that ship is 10 times our size. I'm reading advanced technology far beyond our capabilities." Jinwoo nodded slowly. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since they first reached the stars. First contact with an alien species. He straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Open all communication channels. Let's introduce ourselves properly." The alien ship moved closer, its hull covered in strange markings and symbols. Lights pulsed along its sides in patterns that seemed almost like a language. Jinwoo waited, his heart beating faster with each passing second. This would change everything for humanity. A voice suddenly crackled through the speakers. It was harsh and filled with sounds no human throat could make, but their translation software worked quickly, turning the alien words into something they could understand. "Primitive vessel, you have entered Velkari space. I am Ambassador Velkoth of the Velkari Empire. You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jinwoo felt his stomach drop. This was not how he had imagined first contact would go. He glanced at Yuna, who looked just as shocked as he felt. They had prepared speeches about peace and friendship, about humanity's desire to join the galactic community. None of those speeches seemed useful now. "This is Captain Jinwoo of the United Earth Coalition," he said, keeping his voice steady. "We come in peace. We had no knowledge of Velkari space. If we have crossed a border, we apologize. We wish only to establish diplomatic relations." There was a pause. Then a sound came through the speakers that might have been laughter. It was not a friendly sound. "Diplomatic relations?" Velkoth's voice dripped with mockery. "You are a species of weak, soft creatures from a single world. Our scans show you have no natural defenses, no armor, no strength. You are barely worth the energy to communicate with. You will surrender your ship and submit to Velkari authority. This is not a negotiation." Yuna's hands moved quickly across her controls. She looked up at Jinwoo and shook her head. "Captain, their weapons are charging." "I don't think they're bluffing." Jinwoo's mind raced. Earth was months away. The Coalition had sent them out here alone. A small diplomatic vessel meant for exploration, not combat. They had a few defensive systems, but nothing that could stand against a warship that size. "Ambassador Velkoth," Jinwoo said carefully. "Humanity represents 8 billion people. We are members of the United Earth Coalition, a unified government that speaks for our entire planet. An attack on us would be an act of war against all of humanity." More of that harsh laughter came through the speakers. 8 billion from a single world? Impossible. You lie to make yourself seem more important than you are. Most spacefaring species can barely maintain 2 billion across multiple planets. You expect us to believe such a ridiculous claim? "It's the truth," Yuna added, her voice firm. "Earth is our home. We evolved there. All 8 billion of us. Then your world must be a crowded, miserable place," Velkoth replied, "filled with desperate creatures fighting over scraps. The Velkari Empire has conquered 47 worlds. We know weakness when we see it. You will surrender now or we will open fire." Jinwoo looked around his bridge. His crew of 12 people stared back at him, waiting for orders. They were scientists, diplomats, engineers. Good people who had volunteered to be humanity's first ambassadors to the stars. He could not let them die without a fight, but he also knew that fighting was hopeless. "We will not surrender," Jinwoo said quietly, "but we will not attack you either. We are leaving this area. If you fire on us, you will be starting a war." "You cannot leave," Velkoth said. "Your engines are too slow. And if war is what you want, then war is what you shall have. The Velkari Empire formally declares humanity an enemy. Your species will learn the price of defiance." Yuna's console screamed an alert. "Captain, they're firing!" A beam of brilliant blue energy lanced out from the Velkari ship. It struck the Taeguk Explorer's communication array, and the entire ship shuddered from the impact. Sparks flew from damaged systems. Alarms wailed throughout the corridors. "Communication array destroyed," Yuna reported, her voice shaking. "We can't send messages to Earth. We're cut off." Jinwoo gripped his chair. Without communications, they were alone. Earth would not know what happened here. The Coalition would not know that humanity had just been declared enemies by an alien empire. Unless... Activate the distress beacon, Jinwoo ordered. Use everything we have left. Broadcast on all frequencies. Yuna's fingers flew across her damaged console. Beacon active. Transmitting our location and what happened here. If any human ships are within range, they'll receive it. The Velkari ship moved closer, its weapons glowing brighter. Velkoth's voice came through one last time. You have just committed an act of war against the Velkari Empire. Your distress call changes nothing. No one will save you. Let this be a lesson to any other humans who think they can defy us. The second blast struck the Taeguk explorer directly. The ship's hull tore apart like paper. Atmosphere rushed out into the vacuum of space. Jinwoo felt himself being pulled toward the breach. He saw Yuna reaching for him, her face frozen in a silent scream. Then there was only darkness and cold and silence. The wreckage of the Taeguk explorer drifted in space, broken pieces tumbling slowly through the void. Inside the Velkari ship, Ambassador Velkoth watched the debris field with satisfaction. Another primitive species had learned their place in the galaxy. What Velkoth did not know was that the distress beacon had worked. The signal had traveled through space at light speed. Carried by quantum communication systems the Velkari had not detected. Earth had received every word, every moment of the encounter. In a command center on Earth, Fleet Admiral Taehyun listened to the final transmission from the Taeguk explorer. His face was like stone as he heard Jinwoo's last words, as he heard the weapon fire that killed 12 innocent people. Around him, military officers and government officials stood in shocked silence. First contact had happened. It had gone worse than anyone had imagined. Taehyun turned to his staff. His voice was cold and hard. Send word to the United Earth Coalition. Tell them we have just been declared war upon by an alien empire. Tell them we need to mobilize every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. He looked at the star charts on the wall, finding the location where the Taeguk explorer had died. And someone tell Ambassador Minho at the Galactic Council that humanity has a message for the Velkari Empire. We're coming. The war had begun. The Galactic Council station floated in neutral space, a massive structure where hundreds of alien species gathered to discuss trade, treaties, and territorial disputes. The Grand Chamber at its center could hold thousands of representatives, and today, every seat was filled. News of the Velkari Declaration had spread quickly. Ambassador Minho sat in the human section, a small area that had been mostly empty for the past year. He was the only human diplomat assigned to the council, a quiet man who had spent his time observing and learning about galactic politics. Most species barely noticed him. Humans were new, unimportant, not worth paying attention to. Today, everyone was paying attention. Ambassador Velkoth stood at the center of the chamber, his 4 arms raised in triumph. The reptilian alien was celebrating, his scales shimmering under the lights. Behind him, a holographic display showed pieces of wreckage from the Taeguk explorer. Fellow council members, Velkoth announced, his voice booming through the chamber. The Velkari Empire has formally annexed human territory. These primitive creatures attempted to trespass in our space and defied our lawful authority. Their vessel has been destroyed, and their species now knows the price of challenging the Velkari Empire. Several alien species applauded. Others remained silent, their expressions unreadable. Minho watched it all, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Velkoth continued his speech, describing the encounter as if it had been a great military victory. He spoke of humanity as if they were insects, barely worth the effort to crush. He displayed the wreckage like trophies. He laughed about the distress call that the humans had sent. Minho stood up slowly. The movement was quiet, but somehow the entire chamber noticed. Thousands of eyes turned toward the human section. The applause died away. Even Velkoth stopped talking. Ambassador Velkoth, Minho said. His voice was not loud, but it carried through the silent chamber. You have made a mistake. Velkoth's scales rippled with what might have been amusement. The only mistake was made by your species, human. You should have surrendered when given the chance. Minho walked down toward the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Other species watched him with curiosity. The human had always been so quiet, so polite, so forgettable. Now there was something different about him, something that made even the larger, stronger aliens feel uncomfortable. The Taeguk explorer carried 12 people, Minho said. Scientists, diplomats, engineers. People who left their families behind to explore the stars. People who believed that first contact would be a moment of hope and wonder. You killed them all because they would not surrender to threats. They defied the Velkhari Empire. Velkoth replied with a dismissive wave. The strong rule the galaxy. The weak submit or die. This is the way it has always been. Then let me make humanity's position clear, Minho said. And now his voice carried an edge that made several nearby aliens shift in their seats. Withdraw your declaration of war. Pay reparations for the deaths you have caused. Formally apologize to the United Earth Coalition. Do this and we will consider the matter settled. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Several species began talking at once. Velkoth stared at Minho as if he had gone insane. Or what? Velkoth demanded. Your species has no military presence in this region. Your technology is primitive. Your people are weak. What will you do, human? Send more ships for us to destroy? Before Minho could answer, another voice spoke up. Counselor Thrix, a being that resembled a large insect with crystalline wings, stood from its seat. Ambassador Velkoth, I must advise caution. I have studied the human homeworld. Their evolution is concerning. Concerning? Velkoth laughed. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. They are prey animals. No, Thrix said firmly. They are persistence hunters. They evolved by chasing their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Their planet has gravity 30% higher than yours. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. And their history... Thrix paused, its wings shimmering with distress. Their history is nothing but war. Constant, endless war. They have never known a century without conflict. Another counselor spoke up, a being made of flowing liquid in a containment suit. I have reviewed human cultural archives. They have a concept called total war. It means they mobilize every resource, every citizen, everything their civilization has toward victory. They do not surrender. They do not negotiate once fighting begins. They continue until their enemy is completely defeated. Fairy tales, Velkoth dismissed. Stories to make themselves seem more dangerous than they are. Minho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You want to know what makes humans dangerous, Ambassador? It's not our strength. It's not our technology. It's that we evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. Predators, diseases, weather, other humans. Everything on Earth was a threat, and we survived by being more stubborn than anything that tried to destroy us. He stepped closer to Velkoth, and the larger alien actually took a step back. You killed 12 people, Minho continued. 12 people who had families, friends, dreams. 12 people who represented the best of what humanity could be. And you did it because you thought we were weak. Because you thought we would just accept it and move on. What else would you do? Velkoth asked, trying to regain his confidence. Declare war on the Velkhari Empire? We have 300 warships. Our territory spans 17 systems. We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. Yes, Minho said simply. We will declare war. We will mobilize every resource we have, and we will show you exactly why humans became the apex predator of their world. Not because we were the strongest, not because we were the fastest, but because we never ever stop. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the translator system seemed to pause, as if the machines themselves were shocked by what they had just heard. Velkoth recovered his composure and laughed, though it sounded forced. Then you are fools! The Velkhari Empire will crush humanity. We will turn your homeworld into a monument to the price of defiance. You can try, Minho said. He turned and walked back toward his section. The United Earth Coalition will respond to your declaration within 1 month. I suggest you use that time to reconsider your position. We will do no such thing, Velkoth declared. He looked around the chamber at the other species. Let this be a lesson to all. The Velkhari Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. We do not show weakness. Humanity has chosen extinction, and we will deliver it. Several species began arguing with Velkoth, trying to convince him to negotiate, but the Velkhari ambassador would not listen. His pride had been challenged, and he would not back down in front of the entire Galactic Council. Minho reached his seat and activated his personal communication device. He sent an encrypted message that would take several minutes to reach Earth. It contained only 3 words and a single sentence. Condition read. They've refused. Come prepared. As he sat down, an elderly counselor from a species called the Anthari approached him. The Anthari were one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, and they rarely involved themselves in conflicts between younger species. Ambassador Minho, the Anthari said softly. I have lived for 300 years. I have seen many wars begin in this chamber, but I have never seen a declaration quite like yours. Tell me, are humans truly as dangerous as you suggest? Minho looked at the ancient being and thought about Earth. He thought about human history, about all the wars and conflicts, about how his species had survived ice ages and plagues and near-extinction events. He thought about how humans had fought each other for thousands of years and somehow still built civilizations, still reached for the stars, still hoped for a better future. I hope you never have to find out, Minho said quietly. But the Velkari Empire is about to learn a very hard lesson. When you kill a human's friends, you don't make them afraid. You make them angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The Anthari nodded slowly and returned to its seat. Throughout the chamber, species began to whisper among themselves. Some thought humanity was doomed. Others wondered if the Velkari had made a terrible mistake. But everyone agreed on one thing. The galaxy was about to change forever. Fleet Admiral Taehyun stood on the bridge of the UEC Indomitable, watching the stars through the massive viewing screen. Behind him, the human fleet hung in space like a school of predators waiting to strike. 73 warships, every one of them built in secret over the past decade. Prepared for the possibility that first contact might go wrong, it had gone very wrong. All ships report ready, Commander Sora said from her station. She was young for her position, but she had proven herself during the Mars Rebellion. Taehyun trusted her completely. Fleet disposition is optimal. All weapon systems are charged and ready. And the Velkari Armada? Taehyun asked. Exactly where intelligence predicted. 300 ships in standard defensive formation around the border world Thraxis 7. They're not even hiding. They think we're going to be easy prey. Taehyun allowed himself a small smile. The Velkari had no idea what they were facing. Human warships looked smaller and less impressive than Velkari vessels. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had spent thousands of years perfecting one thing above all others. Finding new and better ways to kill each other. Now, they would use all of that terrible knowledge against an enemy that thought humans were weak. Open all communication channels, Taehyun ordered. Let's give them one more chance. The communication officer nodded, and Taehyun's voice was broadcast across every frequency, reaching not just the Velkari fleet, but also the automated observation posts the Galactic Council had placed throughout this region. This is Fleet Admiral Taehyun of the United Earth Coalition. You have murdered 12 of our people. You have declared war on humanity. We accept your declaration. This is your final warning. Surrender now, withdraw from all human territories, and agree to pay reparations, or learn why Earth has no apex predators except us. For a moment there was silence. Then the Velkari commander's voice came through the speakers, filled with contempt. You dare threaten us with 73 primitive vessels? The Velkari Armada will sweep you from the stars. All ships attack formation. Show these humans the price of their arrogance. The Velkari fleet moved with practiced precision, their 300 ships forming a massive wall of firepower. It was an intimidating sight, exactly the kind of overwhelming force that had made the Velkari Empire feared throughout this region of space. Taehyun watched them arrange themselves and shook his head. They fight like they're in a parade. No imagination, no adaptation. Commander Sora, execute Plan Reaper. Yes, sir, Sora said, and her fingers danced across her controls. All ships execute Plan Reaper. Weapons free. God help them all. The human fleet split apart. Instead of forming defensive lines or meeting the Velkari head-on, the ships scattered in what looked like chaos. The Velkari commander probably thought the humans were panicking. He would realize his mistake soon enough. The first wave hit before the Velkari could properly target the human ships. Small drones, thousands of them, launched from every human vessel and streaked toward the enemy fleet. The Velkari point defense systems opened fire, destroying hundreds of drones. But there were too many and they moved too fast. Some drones exploded against Velkari shields, doing minimal damage. The Velkari commander actually laughed on the open channel, mocking humanity's pathetic attack. Then the second wave of drones hit and his laughter stopped. These drones were not carrying regular explosives. They carried human nuclear weapons, small, efficient, and absolutely devastating. Brilliant flashes of light erupted throughout the Velkari formation, as nuclear fire consumed ships that had never faced such weapons before. Shields designed to stop energy beams meant nothing against raw nuclear fury. Enemy casualties: 47 ships destroyed, 92 damaged, Sora reported calmly. They're breaking formation. But the human attack was just beginning. While the Velkari fleet reeled from the nuclear strikes, human ships moved into position. Instead of using energy weapons like most galactic species, human ships carried kinetic weapons. Railguns that accelerated projectiles to incredible speeds, turning simple metal slugs into devastating weapons. The physics were simple. A small object moving fast enough could punch through almost anything. The Velkari learned this as railgun rounds tore through their hulls like paper. Ships that had survived the nuclear strikes now broke apart under the kinetic bombardment. Enemy is attempting to reorganize, Sora said. They're trying to form defensive clusters. Don't let them, Taehyun ordered. Deploy the cyber warfare packages. Human ships released another wave of drones, but these carried no explosives. Instead, they broadcast signals that attacked the Velkari computer systems. Humanity had learned long ago that in modern warfare, controlling information was just as important as firing weapons. Velkari ships suddenly found their targeting systems feeding them false data. Their communications became flooded with confusing orders. Their navigation systems told them they were heading in the wrong direction. Chaos spread through the Velkari fleet. Ships collided with each other. Weapons fired at empty space or in several cases at their own allies. The careful military formation became a confused mess, and through that mess, human ships struck like predators hunting scattered prey. Captain Sora commanded the destroyer Soul's Vengeance, one of the smaller ships in the human fleet. But size did not matter in this kind of fighting. She brought her ship alongside a damaged Velkari cruiser, and did something the Velkari had never seen before. She ordered a boarding action. Boarding teams go, Sora commanded. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth. Human Marines launched from the Soul's Vengeance in armored boarding pods. They struck the Velkari cruiser's hull and burned their way inside. The Velkari crew had never experienced ship-to-ship boarding. Most galactic species considered it too dangerous, too primitive. Why board a ship when you could just destroy it from a distance? But humans understood that destroying a ship was one thing. Taking it intact and capturing its crew sent a much more powerful message. The Velkari Marines rushed to defend their ship. They were larger than humans, stronger, with natural armor and 4 arms instead of 2. In a fair fight, they would win easily. But humans did not fight fair. Human Marines wore powered armor that made them strong enough to match the Velkari. They carried weapons designed to be effective in close quarters. And they had something the Velkari had never encountered. Tactical doctrine developed over centuries of human versus human warfare. The Velkari fought bravely. They just did not know how to fight humans. Human Marines used cover, suppressing fire, grenades, and coordinated team movements. When their weapons ran out of ammunition, they used knives. When their knives broke, they used their fists. When wounded, they kept fighting instead of retreating to seek medical attention. Within 20 minutes, Captain Sora's Marines had captured the Velkari cruiser. The Velkari crew surrendered, shocked and traumatized by an enemy that simply would not stop. Across the battlefield, the story was the same. The Velkari Armada, once a source of pride and power, was being torn apart by an enemy that fought unlike anything they had ever faced. The humans used nuclear weapons, kinetic weapons, cyber warfare, psychological warfare, boarding actions, and tactics that seemed to have no pattern or logic. What the Velkari did not understand was that humans had been fighting each other for so long that they had learned every possible way to hurt an opponent. Now they were using all of that knowledge against an enemy that had only known easy victories. 4 hours after the battle began, the Velkari commander sent a desperate message. "We surrender. Please, we surrender. Stop the attack." Taehyun let the message hang in the air for a moment. On his tactical display, he could see the remains of the Velkari fleet. Of the 300 ships that had started the battle, fewer than 50 remained intact. The others were destroyed or so badly damaged they would never fight again. Human losses were significant. 22 ships destroyed, another 15 heavily damaged. But for humanity, this was an acceptable trade. The Velkari had learned that humans did not fight wars the way other species did. Humans fought to win, no matter the cost. "Cease fire," Taehyun ordered. "Accept their surrender. Board and secure all remaining Velkari vessels." As his orders spread throughout the fleet, Taehyun thought about the 12 people who had died on the Taeguk Explorer. Jinwoo, Yuna, and their crew. They had gone out seeking peace and found only death. Now the Velkari Empire knew the price of that decision, but this was just the beginning. The galaxy was watching. Every species with access to the observation posts had seen what happened here. They had seen humans unleash violence on a scale the galaxy had never imagined. Some would be horrified, some would be afraid, and some, Taehyun hoped, would understand the real message. Humanity did not want to fight. But if you forced them to fight, you would learn why they were the deadliest species from Earth. Send a message to Ambassador Minho, Taehyun ordered. Tell him the Velkari Armada has been defeated. Tell him we're ready for Phase 2. Commander Sora looked up from her station. Phase 2, sir? Taehyun's expression was grim. The Velkari have allied species. They'll convince them to join this war. We need to be ready. Humans have learned one lesson better than any other throughout our history. What lesson is that, sir? That the only way to guarantee peace is to win so decisively that no one dares challenge you again. The Velkari Empire refused to accept defeat. News of the disaster at Theraxis 7 spread through their territory like wildfire, but their leadership declared it a temporary setback. They mobilized reserve fleets from across their 17 systems, calling up every ship they had. More importantly, they called on their allies. The Krell Collective and the Novan hierarchy had been trading partners with the Velkari for decades. Both species were powerful in their own right, with advanced technology and strong military forces. When the Velkari showed them footage of the human attack, carefully edited to make the humans look like savage monsters, both species agreed to join the war. Together, the three empires assembled an armada of over 800 ships. It was the largest military force seen in this region of the galaxy in living memory. Surely, the Velkari leadership believed, such overwhelming numbers would crush the humans once and for all. They were about to learn that humans did not fight with numbers alone. They fought with strategy. Commodore Hyunwoo commanded the human ship Soul's Pride, leading a small squadron of 12 vessels. His orders from Fleet Admiral Taehyun were simple but unusual. He was not to engage the main enemy fleet. Instead, he was to make the enemy's life as difficult as possible. All ships execute guerrilla protocol, Hyunwoo ordered. Remember, we're not here to win glorious battles. We're here to make them bleed resources until they can't afford to fight anymore. His squadron split up, each ship heading to different targets throughout Velkari territory. They did not attack military bases or engage enemy fleets. Instead, they attacked supply depots, fuel stations, and logistics hubs, the places where the enemy armada got food, ammunition, and spare parts. Human ships would appear without warning, destroy their target, and vanish before enemy reinforcements could arrive. Sometimes they did not even fire weapons. Instead, they released mines that drifted through space waiting for enemy ships to stumble into them. Other times they hacked into automated systems and caused them to malfunction. The Velkari had never experienced this kind of warfare. They were used to direct confrontation, fleet against fleet, strength against strength. The humans refused to fight that way. They struck from shadows, hit targets the enemy did not think to protect, and disappeared before the enemy could respond. But the real damage came from Commander Minji, who led humanity's Information Warfare Division. She had discovered something interesting about the alliance between the Velkari, Krell, and Novan. It was not based on friendship or shared values. It was based on mutual benefit and, more importantly, mutual distrust. Sir, Minji reported to Fleet Admiral Taehyun, I've intercepted communications between the three empires. The Velkari are calling their allies cowards for not engaging human forces more directly. The Krell are complaining that the Velkari are hoarding supplies. The Novan are angry that they're being used as cannon fodder. Taehyun smiled. Can you make that worse? Already working on it, sir. Minji's team went to work. They intercepted Velkari communications and altered them slightly before forwarding them to the Krell. Suddenly, the Krell were receiving messages where Velkari commanders called them worthless allies. The Krell, angry and offended, sent harsh responses. But those responses were intercepted by Minji's team and modified before reaching the Velkari, making them even more insulting. Within weeks, the alliance was fracturing. The Krell accused the Velkari of deliberately sending them into dangerous situations. The Novan discovered, through leaked documents that Minji's team had carefully fabricated, that the Velkari had been planning to betray them after the war ended. The Velkari, confused by their allies' sudden hostility, responded with genuine anger. The massive armada of 800 ships began to fall apart, not because of human military action, but because humans had learned long ago that breaking an enemy's will to fight was more effective than destroying their ships. But the Velkari were not ready to give up. If guerrilla warfare was how humans wanted to fight, then the Velkari would strike at humanity's heart. A suicide fleet of 200 ships was assembled. Their mission was simple: bypass human defenses and attack Earth itself. Lieutenant Junho stood watch at the outer solar system monitoring station. His job was boring most days, watching empty space for threats that never came. Today was different. His sensors screamed warnings as 200 enemy ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. All stations. "This is Outer Defense 7, Junho transmitted, his voice remarkably calm despite his racing heart. "Enemy fleet detected entering solar system. Count is 200 vessels heading directly for Earth. This is not a drill." Throughout the solar system, alarms sounded. On Earth, billions of people looked up at the sky knowing that death was coming. The Galactic Council prepared memorial services, certain that humanity would be wiped out within hours. But the Velkari had made a critical mistake. They assumed that the 73 ships they had fought at Thraxis 7 represented humanity's entire military. They had no idea what was waiting for them. As the Velkari suicide fleet crossed into the inner solar system, passing the orbit of Neptune, they started detecting ships. Lots of ships. Human vessels emerged from behind asteroids, from the shadow of planets, from hiding places throughout the solar system. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. The Velkari commander stared at his sensors in disbelief. This was impossible. How could the humans have hidden so many ships? Where had they all come from? The answer was simple. Humanity had been building a defensive fleet in secret for decades, ever since they first achieved faster-than-light travel. They had hidden ships in asteroid fields, parked them on the dark side of moons, disguised them as space stations and mining facilities. Every shipyard in the solar system had been working at full capacity, building weapons to defend Earth against the possibility that first contact might go badly. It had gone very badly, and now the Velkari would pay the price. All defensive platforms. "Open fire," came the command from Earth Defense Command. "Show them what happens when you threaten our home." The moon Luna was not just humanity's first off-world colony. It was also a massive weapons platform. Railguns built into craters opened fire, sending metal slugs screaming through space at impossible speeds. Mars, once a barren red planet, now bristled with missile batteries and laser arrays. The asteroid belt itself had been turned into a defensive network, with weapons hidden in hollowed-out rocks. The Velkari suicide fleet found itself under attack from every direction. They had expected to find Earth defended by a handful of ships. Instead, they faced a defensive network that had been planned and built with one goal: making the solar system into the most dangerous place in the galaxy to attack. Ships exploded by the dozens. The Velkari tried to push forward, but they could not even get close to Mars. Human defenders fighting to protect their homeworld fought with a ferocity that the Velkari could not match. This was not just another battle. This was humanity defending their families, their children, their entire species. Lieutenant Junho, from his monitoring station, watched as the Velkari fleet was systematically destroyed. Not a single enemy ship made it past the orbit of Mars. Most did not even make it past Jupiter. Within 3 hours, the 200-ship suicide fleet ceased to exist. Not a single ship escaped to report what they had seen. Commander Minji, monitoring communications from Earth, sent a message on all frequencies. It was broadcast throughout Velkari space, reaching every planet, every ship, every citizen of their empire. "This is Commander Minji of the United Earth Coalition. You have just witnessed what happens when you attack our home. 200 of your ships entered our solar system. None survived. You thought we were weak because we sent only diplomatic vessels to explore the galaxy. You thought we were primitive because we evolved on a single world. You were wrong about everything." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You attacked our home. You killed our people. You declared war on a species that has spent its entire existence learning how to fight and survive. Now you will learn what humans do to those who threaten our families. We are coming for you. We are bringing every weapon, every ship, every soldier we have. And we will not stop until you understand one simple truth. Humans do not start wars, but we always finish them. The message spread throughout Velkhari territory. In command centers, military leaders listened with growing dread. In civilian areas, ordinary Velkhari began to question if this war was worth fighting. The humans had not just defeated their attack. They had made it look easy. Panic began to spread through the Velkhari Empire. If the humans could destroy 200 ships without even leaving their home system, what would happen when they brought their full military force to Velkhari worlds? What weapons did they have that they had not yet used? What strategies were they still holding in reserve? The Krell Collective and Novan hierarchy, seeing the footage of the battle in the solar system, quietly began withdrawing their fleets. This was no longer a war they wanted any part of. The humans had proven that they were not prey. They were predators, and they were very good at it. In the Galactic Council chambers, species that had watched the entire war through observation posts sat in stunned silence. They had seen the battle at Thraxis 7 and thought it was a fluke, a lucky victory by a desperate species. Now they understood the truth. Humanity had been holding back, showing mercy to an enemy that had declared war on them. What would humanity do when they stopped showing mercy? 6 months had passed since the Velkhari Empire declared war on humanity. 6 months of conflict, destruction, and death. Now in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from hundreds of species gathered to witness something unprecedented. The Velkhari Empire was about to surrender unconditionally. The Velkhari delegation looked nothing like they had when Ambassador Velkoth had stood here celebrating their declaration of war. Their scales were dull, their posture defeated. Velkoth himself was not present. He was in custody, awaiting trial for war crimes. In his place stood a new ambassador, a younger Velkhari named Torvik, who looked like he had aged years in the past months. The Velkhari Empire formally surrenders to the United Earth Coalition, Torvik said, his voice barely above a whisper. We acknowledge our crimes. We accept any punishment the Galactic Council deems appropriate. We only ask that humanity show mercy to our civilian population. The chamber was silent. Every species present had watched the war unfold. They had seen what humans were capable of when pushed to their limits. The question now was, what would humanity do with their victory? Fleet Admiral Taehyun entered the chamber, wearing his military dress uniform. Behind him walked Ambassador Minho, who had been at the council since before the war began. The two humans approached the center of the chamber where the Velkhari delegation waited. Many species expected a harsh response. Perhaps humanity would demand territory, or force the Velkhari into servitude, or exact revenge for the 12 people killed on the Taeguk Explorer. That was what most species would do after such a victory. Instead, Taehyun did something that shocked everyone in the chamber. He extended his hand to Torvik in the human gesture of peace. The United Earth Coalition accepts your surrender, Taehyun said. The war is over. Humanity has no desire to rule over the Velkhari or any other species. We only wanted to protect our people and make sure this never happens again. Torvik stared at the extended hand, confused. You do not want our territory? Our resources? You do not want revenge? We want justice, Minho said, stepping forward. Those responsible for starting this war will face trial. The Velkhari Empire as a political entity will be dissolved, but the Velkhari people will be free to govern themselves, to rebuild, to become part of the galactic community as equals. A murmur ran through the chamber. This was not how conquerors typically behaved. Species that won wars usually took everything they could from the defeated. What was humanity's game? Taehyun turned to address the entire council. Members of the Galactic Council, humanity has learned something important during this war. The galaxy operates on a simple principle. The strong dominate the weak. That system is broken. It's what led the Velkhari to attack us in the first place. They thought they were strong and we were weak, so they believed they had the right to destroy us. He paused, looking around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces. Humanity is strong. We've proven that. But we do not want to use our strength to dominate others. We want to use it to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We propose a new system, a new way for the galaxy to operate. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a document that human diplomats had been working on for months. It was called the Terran Accord. Special Envoy Jiwoo, a former military pilot who had lost friends in the war, stepped forward to explain. She was young, but she spoke with authority earned through combat experience. The Terran Accord is a mutual defense treaty, Jiwoo explained. Any species that signs it will receive protection from human military forces if they are attacked. In exchange, they agree to follow a set of basic principles: no wars of conquest, no slavery, no genocide. Disputes between member species will be resolved through negotiation or arbitration, not violence. And if a member species violates these principles? Asked Counselor Thrix, the insectoid being who had tried to warn the Velkari before the war. Then they lose the protection of the Accord, Jiwoo said simply. And if their violations are severe enough, they will face the same response the Velkari faced. Humanity will not tolerate species that start wars or abuse the weak. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species loved the idea. They were smaller civilizations, constantly worried about being conquered by their larger neighbors. The promise of human protection was enormously appealing. Other species were more skeptical. They worried about giving humanity too much power, about what would happen if humans decided to abuse their position as the galaxy's peacekeepers. An elderly counselor from the Anthari, one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, rose to speak. I have lived for 3 centuries. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen species promise peace while preparing for war. Why should we believe humanity will be different? It was Ambassador Minho who answered. Because we understand what war costs. Every human knows someone who died in the conflict with the Velkari. Every family on Earth mourned. We could have ended this war months ago, but we chose to minimize casualties, even enemy casualties. We want peace not because we fear war, but because we know exactly how terrible war is. He walked slowly around the chamber, making eye contact with as many representatives as he could. Humanity spent thousands of years fighting each other. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We built weapons that could wipe out our entire species, and eventually we learned that the only way to survive was to work together, to see our common humanity as more important than our differences. Now we offer that same lesson to the galaxy, Minho continued. Not through force, but through choice. Sign the Accord if you believe in a better way. Reject it if you prefer the old system. But understand this. Humanity will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will not stand by and watch species like the Velkari destroy innocents. Never again. The first species to sign the Terran Accord was surprising. It was the Krell Collective, one of the Velkari's former allies. Their representative approached the holographic document and placed a hand on it, the gesture that indicated agreement in galactic law. The Krell made a mistake joining the Velkari in this war, the Krell representative said. We were swayed by promises of easy victory and shared plunder. We learned that humanity fights for principles, not profit. That is the kind of ally we want. One by one, other species came forward to sign. By the end of the first day, 47 species had joined the Accord. Within a year, that number would grow to over 200. Within 5 years, most of the known galaxy would be part of the agreement. The Velkari Empire was formally dissolved, broken up into smaller territories that the Velkari people could govern themselves. Trials were held for those who had started the war. Former Ambassador Velkoth, found guilty of murdering the crew of the Tiguk Explorer, was sentenced to life in prison. But his trial included something that shocked many species. Human lawyers argued for mercy, pointing out that Velkoth had been following the cultural norms of his society. The galaxy had always operated on might making right. How could he be fully blamed for following rules everyone had accepted? The judges, including human ones, were not moved by this argument. Velkoth was guilty, but the sentence was imprisonment, not execution. Humanity, even in victory, showed restraint. One day, a human journalist was allowed to interview Velkoth in his prison cell. The interview was broadcast throughout the galaxy and became one of the most watched programs in history. What would you say to the galaxy about humanity? The journalist asked. Velkoth, his scales now gray with age and stress, looked directly at the camera. We thought they were weak because their ships were small. We thought they were primitive because they came from a single world. We thought they were prey because they had no natural weapons. We were wrong about everything. He paused, and something like regret crossed his reptilian features. Humans are not strong because of their bodies or their technology. They are strong because they never give up. We killed 12 of them, and they mobilized billions. We attacked their home, and they destroyed our fleet without leaving their solar system. We threatened their families, and they showed us what real determination looks like. "Do you regret starting the war?" the journalist asked. "I regret everything," Velkoth said quietly. "I regret not listening to the warnings. I regret the deaths of my own people. Most of all, I regret that we declared war on the deadliest species in the galaxy, and were surprised when they responded like the predators they are. We're lucky they showed mercy. Any other species with their power would have wiped us out completely." The interview ended, but Velkoth's words spread throughout the galaxy. They became a warning, a reminder of what happened when you underestimated humanity. On Earth, monuments were built to honor the crew of the Taguk explorer. Captain Jinwoo and Lieutenant Yuna became symbols of humanity's first encounter with the galaxy, martyrs whose deaths had changed the course of history. Schools were named after them. Songs were written about them. Their families were honored as heroes. Fleet Admiral Taehyun stood in front of one such monument, looking up at the stone faces of the 12 crew members who had died. Beside him, Commander Minji stood silently, paying her respects. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Minji asked. "Starting a war, killing so many?" Taehyun was quiet for a long moment. "We didn't start the war. We finished it. And we finished it in a way that might prevent future wars. Is that perfect? No, did people die who didn't deserve to? Yes, but we gave the galaxy something it never had before. Hope that strength can be used to protect instead of dominate." "The weight of it, though," Minji said. "Being the galaxy's protectors. What if we fail? What if we become the very thing we fought against? Then other species will do to us what we did to the Velkari," Taehyun said simply. "That's why we have to be better. Every day we have to choose to be better. Because the galaxy is watching and they'll judge us by our actions, not our words." They stood in silence, two soldiers who had seen too much war, hoping for a future with less of it. Around them, life on Earth continued. People went to work, children went to school, families gathered for meals. Normal life, made possible because humans had proven they could defend themselves. In orbit above Earth, the defensive fleet remained on constant alert. Human ships patrolled the borders of Accord space, ready to respond to any threat. Humanity had not become complacent. They understood that peace was maintained by being ready for war, even while hoping war would never come again. And throughout the galaxy, other species looked at humanity with a mix of respect and fear. Respect for what they had accomplished, fear of what they might do if pushed too far. But most importantly, they learned the lesson that the Velkari had learned too late. Humanity might look weak. They might seem ordinary. But beneath that surface was something that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not cruelty or aggression, but the simple, stubborn refusal to give up, the determination to protect their own, the willingness to do whatever it took to survive and thrive. The galaxy had declared war on the deadliest species among the stars. It would not make that mistake again.